let's queer up business. After Supreme Court discrimination decision, Michigan Hair Salon refuses service to transgender people. When the Supreme Court ruled on June 30th in favor of a Colorado web designer who sought to refuse to make wedding websites for theoretical gay couples, activists and legal experts warned it would open the door to all kinds of businesses discriminating against LGBTQ+ Americans. Days later, at least one such case has popped up. Last week, a hair salon in Traverse City, Michigan, announced that it would not serve transgender clients, comparing them to animals. The Post made it clear that the salon sees discrimination as condoned under a free speech argument, just like the web designer. The post was accompanied by the hashtag #TakeAStand. When criticized in an online review of the business, the salon's owner, Christine Geiger, responded by sticking to her position, saying, quote, "LGB are more than welcome. However, the rest is not something I support," end quote. Geiger's language mirrors the hateful rhetoric circulated by many right-wing politicians about trans people. On Tuesday, after the comments circulated on Facebook and were picked up by local news, Geiger deleted her personal and professional Facebook page and set the salon's Instagram profile to private. I wasn't shocked about the Supreme Court ruling behind this because it was something that I felt shouldn't have gone to the Supreme Court in the first place. But in retrospect, what it also did was legalize discrimination going forward. Whereas businesses should be in business to be able to serve the community at large and patrons. I mean, on the flip side, I don't know why someone would want to support a business like this, because if you're a bigot, then you should promote yourself as a bigot, so that way I don't spend my money with you. But I don't want to do business with someone who doesn't want to support me as a human being.
The Supreme Court really left the door open on this ruling by saying basically anything that because the website design was a creative work and helping them to create a message, that kind of discrimination was okay. I have two very good friends, Troy and Jimmy, who are getting married in 2 months, and they just had their venue completely cancel on them. And I said, "What? Is it because you're gay?" And they said, "Well, no, it can't be that. It's a venue." I said, "Yeah, but the Supreme Court says that it's creative works. And if that venue is helping you to create an event, they could certainly do that." It's such a horrible decision by the Supreme Court, not just because of the decision to discriminate against trans in that circumstance, but to make it so broad and open to interpretation that it's going to have to be tested and challenged forever to go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm like the meathead of the group. I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, I don't want to give you my business anyway, but I just don't know what's going to have like a trickle down effect thereafter and what this is going to roll into in terms of my life and how it affects my day. But I just, right now it doesn't affect me because I just, when you think of the Karens of the world, you think of, 2020 when it was, I don't want to wear a mask and throwing things in the Starbucks. Like I would say, good, this is a moment where I can discriminate and say, get out of my store. But again, I'm afraid of where this leads to and how this will impact the community at large versus solely within a business.
Well, as a person who produces music, I think you should be very concerned about this ruling. Everything that you do is a creative work.
Every like, because you're getting married, and now like every time you go to book a florist, a venue, anything, you have to go, are you okay with gay people? We literally have to ask permission to be ourselves before we can go ahead and plan just traditional, normal life events. Now, this happened up in Traverse City, Michigan, which is in the northwest corner of Lower Michigan. And it is, it's always been kind of this bohemian blue dot in a sea of very sparsely populated, but very red part of Michigan. So I used to live in Michigan, a couple hours south, and I always loved going up to Traverse, and I think I still would. I mean, I wouldn't let this shrew ruin it for me. But I was talking with one of my friends who is a journalist in Traverse City, and she is working this story, and just to get hers, and she said to me, I want to believe Traverse City is a beautiful vibe always. But there are outliers, unfortunately. They haven't been able to get a hold of the salon owner, but she says, quote, I have only a screenshot of what was said on Facebook from the viewer. I've never seen anything like this before, especially from a business owner in Traverse City. it's just gross. And that really sums up the mood on the ground up there. And it's going to take discrimination, not just out of the legislature, not just down to the street level, storefront by storefront. We now have to go, are we okay to exist? This is wrong on so many multiple levels. And I do hope it gets challenged on each specific occasion.
So just in case anybody's thinking this is more of a religious issue, this is one of the statement that was on the page. If a human identifies as anything other than a man/woman, please seek services at a local pet groomer. The Studio 8 Hair Lab in Traverse City, Michigan said in a now deleted Facebook, the Kansas City Star reported. So Kansas City Star reported it. They compare them to animals, right? So this is not really like, I just don't want to support a gay marriage or something. To Cal's point, I also believe that it should never have made it to the Supreme Court. They're generally pretty choosy on what they would decide to hear. And there's no real aggressor it was just kind of a made up situation.
Yeah, it was all theoretical.
Into it, right? So having said that, I actually agree with the decision. And I agree with the decision because this is the same lines as the cake baker. And how you are also in the artistic field, I am as well. That's what I do for a living. And I do not want to be coerced to be performing at a Trump rally or to be offer services that are going to promote a certain ideology that I'm not into. However, there's a difference, and we should understand what the Supreme Court ruling is. It is not discriminating against gay people. It is about a cause. For instance, even in the cake baker situation, which was never ruled on because of a technicality, but even in his situation, he's like, anybody can come into my store and purchase anything out of my store. It doesn't matter if they're gay or not. And the Supreme Court ruling is saying that anything that's just being sold to the everyday person, you can purchase. It's only when it comes to creative services that are against your personal religion. So for instance, if you were a cake baker and you didn't want to say happy abortion, or you didn't want to say happy something like that, then it's your right to do it. And I don't want to be coerced and sued because I don't want to perform at a white nationalist organization. So.
Well, yeah, I feel like, but that's why I feel like it's not that much of a change for me right now. Like, I only work with venues that support the LGBTQ plus community. If I'm going to perform at a street festival, you're not allowed to throw anything at me. And we're not at that level yet where the discrimination or the hate crime will surpass kind of these creative scenarios within a cake shop, right? Mm-hmm. If it is okay to cause a hate crime or to perform a hate crime because of this, that's where I'm starting to get a little like weary on all these kind of dumb theoretical situations, because I don't want to buy a cake from you if this is something you're not into or you don't believe. But I also don't want you for it to be okay for you to throw a rock at me when I'm performing at a street festival. Does that make sense?
The word in your sentence, the key word is yet.
Yeah, right.
If you think that that hate crime laws are going to stand up after this, you are sorely mistaking at best, and a fool most likely, to be quite honest.
Well, thanks for that, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm here for you.
You did call yourself the meathead.
I am the meathead.
But no, we can't just like, for the same reasons. It sounds like you should be okay to be able to refuse service to someone, but you can't. And I'll fill in for Al right now. Sorry, Cal. But imagine if it was 60 years ago and you went up to a lunch counter and you couldn't get a BLT because the owner doesn't want to have black people in the restaurant. It's the exact same thing. Like, I could not. It is absolutely the exact same thing. That I couldn't go into a barber shop. Like, let's say it was my wedding day.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go in and get a professional shave done, just because I want it to look really good and tight. And they could say no. And that's absolutely wrong. It is, unfortunately, very American, because we are based on and founded on discrimination. And we've got millions, tens of millions, probably over 100 million people fighting to keep discrimination. And this story is exactly part of that narrative.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ plus community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.